All right, looks like we have some people jumping in, so I'll go ahead and get started. Shuo, thanks so much for joining us. We've been doing weekly operator talks for a while here at Worklife, and we're super excited to have you. Our goal for these calls is we invite founders and friends in our network to really join and not only hear specific tactics on how you've built and scaled your company, but it's also a nice time to ask very honest questions as well. With the markets where they're at today, the last time we caught up, I was really excited to learn about some of the changes that you made really quickly at Deel and to really talk to founders on how we can adapt in this new environment. Because I feel like Deel's done an amazing job of really scaling into new markets and hiring great leaders across the globe. And so we'll probably talk a little bit about building and scaling distributed teams as well, since it is a new model for a lot of people. But I want to hand it over to you. I would love to hear from your perspective, how your role has evolved as the co-founder of Deel, and maybe even just a couple of fun facts of some things that have happened since the pandemic, since you were so early in building in this new world of remote work.
Thank you, Britt. Thanks so much for the intro, and then thanks for having me here today. And super excited to share more about myself and then deal the journey, right? So we have been growing very fast. I remember last year we were the number 106 on the top YC company list, and as of yesterday we're the number sevens, right? So it's definitely a crazy journey, right? And then I think for us, timing is very important, and then also even after the pandemic or even right now we realize that a lot of companies are expanding their international markets, and then they're super open to hire remotely, hire internationally, just because for the past 2 years they have learned and they have trained the team to adapt to the a remote environment, right? So I still see a lot of opportunities, a lot of companies and then adapt to this remote work environment, and it's becoming a lifestyle and it's becoming mainstream. Yeah.
That's awesome. So your role at Deel, you're the co-founder and the CRO. Can you tell me a little bit more about your roles and responsibilities and how that has changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. I think a CRO is not a very common title, right? And then yeah, we rarely see any co-founders as a CRO role, right? So what my main responsibility or sole responsibility is making money for the company, right? So I need to make sure that we continuously growing our revenue, right? Continuously hitting revenue target based on sales conditions, market conditions, right? So we sometimes reforecast our revenue target as well, right? And then for myself, I actually have a very technical background. And I studied robotics while I was in college, and I did a master degree in robotics as well at MIT. And then it's just a dramatic change from my role, right? From a technical role to a sales role. So I think as a founder myself, just because I'm in charge of sales, I understand sales. I understand how to pitch the product, where our business is at, how to enable the team to to do sales better and in a more efficient way. Having a co-founder to be in charge of sales or to become the CRO role is more and more popular, and it is becoming a trend. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this model. I talk to a lot of founders where, if you have two technical co-founders and no one owns revenue, then you can stay in freeland for way too long. And so I think
Mhm.
growth and monetization is something that can easily be an afterthought when you have two founders that are really focused on product and product alone. And so I've always really appreciated this model. And I hope more founders think about this because with your technical background, you know how to build and scale products. But when
Mhm.
you overlay the sales perspective, you also know how to monetize, which is really important. Like I talk to a lot of companies that are now 2 or 3 years into building, and sure, they have a lot of runway, but also they could be making money if they would start monetizing sooner than they, would have expected.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think is also you are always in the front line to to find product market fit, right? And then once we have this product market fit, we are thinking about scale the team, right? We're thinking about pricing strategies. Where do we get our clients, and what is going to be our go to market strategy, right? And then
Yeah, that makes
having like a co-founder who is like on top of businesses definitely can make this entire like go to market faster. Yeah.
That's great. When you
Yeah.
have your when you go into meetings with Alex and you have your CRO hat on, do you find is there any conflict or how do you typically like what are the things that Alex owns versus what are the things that you own and how do you approach that in specific meetings?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Alex and myself, we're like, we have very separated and independent responsibilities. And then just because we're a remote company, right? And then I'm in charge of revenue, and then he is in charge of product, right? And then he's in charge of like, scaling the company, a lot of operations as well, and then as well as like maintain like a investor relationship where like build a strategic like partnerships as well for us, right? And then I think we are very independent, right? So may make decisions on our own, right? And then so that we can move very fast. I think that is one of the reasons like Deel has been growing very fast. It's just because like we move at Deel speed and we execute, and then we identify problems, propose solutions, and then based on the solutions we test the different strategies, right? And then we find the best one and we execute, right? And then we touch base, like we always make a decisions together, but like in day to day work or responsibilities, we're very independent and we make decisions on our own. Yeah.
When you think about Deal, maybe today versus pre-pandemic, what are some things that you didn't expect that, maybe you've scaled certain teams faster, maybe you've expanded into new markets faster? What were some things that you didn't anticipate pre-pandemic?
Yeah, I think the pandemic definitely accelerated the need of deal, right? So and then it helped us to like find the product market fit much faster, right? So I think that's one thing, and then another thing is I think we didn't think that we would grow scale our company this fast, right? So I remember before pandemic 2020 when we first got like graduated from Y Combinator, we're like a 10 people team. And then in early 2020, we were like, 20 people team. And then right now, after 3 years, we are like a 1,200 people team, right? And then we just scale the team very fast. And then we start to accelerate hires. And then we become more serious about headcount planning, strategy planning, and then product like design planning as well. Yeah.
And do you find for the revenue team specifically, are you fully distributed? And if so, how have you scaled that team? Do you look for people that have specifically enterprise software background, or what are the things that you typically look for on the revenue side?
Yeah. So I think for sales team, we're fully distributed. And then sales team is about the 30% of our overall headcount, including like, sales, marketing, revenue operations, sales operations, plus SDR team as well, right? And as well as partnership team. I think when we look for sales, we look at the global scale. Like Deel is not only focusing a US market since day one, and then we have a small sales team focusing on EMEA market, focusing on APAC, focusing on Latin America at a very 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 early on, and then that definitely helped us to build a very efficient sales strategy when we are ready to scale. Yeah, so I think we always look at the sales talent that has like international background, right? And then can adapt to remote working environment, and then is always very driven. And then another thing that I'm looking for is the sales team, it can execute on their own, and then whether they are aggressive enough and then be able to close deals in a very efficient way.
The last time we spoke, you had mentioned that you were very quick to reforecast and quick to make changes when the
Mhm.
market started to turn. Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit more about, did you change the team structure from a revenue standpoint? Did you have one person driving the reforecasting? Like, How did you reorient the business when the market started to change?
Yeah, that's a great question because we changed our revenue, organization, right? So as we grow bigger, we added a new team. On top of sales team, we have a revenue operations team, and then the responsibility or the scope of this revenue operation team is making sure that our sales team is efficient, and then help us to build go to market strategy, or help us to expand internationally or expand to international global markets, right? So when it comes reforecasting, when it comes to changes, when it comes to optimize more strategies based on market conditions, we always have rev ops team to work with finance team, right? So those two teams always work together for reforecasting. And then the couple things that we consider when it comes to reforecasting, right? So we would keep a close eye on our pipeline generation, right? Our demand gen function, right? So previously we have, let's say, 100 inbound leads every month, right? And then but today, because of market conditions, we could have only 80, right? And then that is definitely one of the measurement that we closely look at, just to make sure that we understand what is going on, and then do we have enough pipeline or leads for our sales team to close. Yeah.
I've also noticed, the team has been really aggressive and excited about acquisitions as well. Do
Hmm.
you feel like those acquisitions, is that going to serve as more expansion revenue and opportunities to upsell, or what are your goals with acquiring other companies?
So when we look at acquiring companies, there are two things that we measure, right? So number one is from a product standoff point, right? So whether this company's product or the services that the company provides is aligned with Deel's vision, right? So is aligned with Deel's main products. So that's number one. And number two is the team culture, right? So whether we can work together, right? And then whether the two teams are can integrate together smoothly, right? I think overall we did 4 acquisitions already, right? And then mainly around HR products or integrations or Slack plugins. And then the most recent big acquisition is a global payroll company based in India, based in APAC, and then headquartered in Singapore. And then what they do is that they're very good at a global payroll, right? And then they have served many bigger clients, right? So today, if we are trying to expand or upsell our existing clients to from our product to a global payroll product, which is a new services that we're providing today, we are just going to use the new company that we acquired, right? And then another thing is we also acquired a company which is called LegalPath, and then LegalPath is going to help us to build our mobility product, right? So build a lot more structure, processes, and systems in place when it comes to if a company is having a need to sponsor a visa to their a global talents. Yeah. So all the acquisitions that we have made are very aligned with our vision, and then how we are going to provide better and better services and better products to help all kinds of companies to hire remotely or hire international talents in a very efficient way. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. And you're based in Singapore right now, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. I have been here for 3 weeks, and then Singapore is a great market. That is APAC market is one of our fastest growing markets so far, and then there are just a lot of great companies, and then the founders is Singapore. Since the Singapore is the new a hub for companies trying to expand internationally, and that there are a lot of great energies in Singapore. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Balaji's school of thought around Singapore as well. It's such a beautifully run city and it's very modern. So I also think it's a great place if you're working remotely. I've heard of a lot of people that are spending more time in Singapore because it is a really great place to live too. What I love about Deal is you can move really quickly on the product side of things. I
Mhm.
also find that you are not afraid to experiment with different product offerings, different currencies. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how crypto came about when it comes to Deal.
Yeah. Well, I think Alex and myself, we are very open to crypto, right? And then I think Alex built a crypto product, even at a very very early on top of Ethereum, right? So I think it's just we believe in blockchain. We believe in crypto, as a payment system, as a payment infrastructure, right? So that concept makes sense, right? And then when it comes to build a payment platform which for international talents, which is the initial pitch when we are in Y Combinator, it just naturally adapt to all kinds of payment systems, right? And then we integrated with many great payment providers out there, right? Including local banks, including PayPal, TransferWise, those payment service providers, as well as crypto payouts. Yeah, today. So it's just we are open to integrate all kinds of payment platforms into our system. Yeah, and then crypto is becoming a bigger and bigger part and the
That's
player.
great.
Yeah.
Are there certain markets where you're seeing crypto being adopted faster?
I think around 10 to 12% of the withdrawals on deal today are into cryptocurrencies, right? And the major markets, including like APAC and Latin America.
When you think about prioritizing certain features or prioritizing certain products,
Uh,
I know that the team has done an amazing job of shipping a lot very quickly. How do
mhm.
you think about resources on the sales side of things? Like, do you have the majority of sales reps? Are they selling the core deal product and then they could potentially upsell on others? Or how do you think about really getting existing customers excited about all of the things that deal can do?
Yeah, we have a team that is dedicated for closing new businesses, and then we also have account management team, which is growing existing accounts and then cross sell and upsell across inside our client base, right? And then that model works really well because last year we were only providing two products, and then this year we are providing five products already, right? So the account management team has done a really really good job to growing existing accounts and growing existing clients. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And do you get involved in a lot of those conversations, or what does a week in Shuo's world look like? Do you have more of it structure where there's a lead for each team and you do one-on-ones with them, or how have you scaled your time as the company's gotten much bigger very quickly?
The structure has been very different at the different stages, right? So Series A is different from Series B to Series D today, right? And one thing that I'm maintaining today is every week we have a revenue leader stand up. Right, so we would go over metrics, we would go over revenue numbers, we would go over pipeline and then how we are pacing to the target for the end of the month or the end of the quarter, right? So that is every single week, and then to have everyone on the same page on what is going on. So that has never changed, right? And then I the structure has or the reporting structure has been different, right? So and I would upgrade it for every single stage when we grow into, right? And then I remember previously I worked with sales managers directly, but today we have so many sales managers, and then the sales managers is managing 8 to 10 AEs today. I just do not have the capacity, so I would work with the head of sales directly, and then we would generate the reports, we would generate the data based on those data, and then the dashboard I would have a lot of information automatically updated. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Mhm.
A couple questions from the crew. How do you think about unit economics versus growth?
I think at the deal we have been very very efficient. right? And then we are very efficient on marketing spending. We're very efficient on user acquisition, right? And then I think one thing that I have learned as a founder or as an entrepreneur is always like making revenue and then making businesses, right?
Yeah.
So we can do investment, but it needs to make sense, and then we need to be able to measure the return, the ROI of every single dollar that we spend. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and I do feel like Deel was first to market, and so you had the benefit of having a strong brand and partnering with YC companies in the early days who have now scaled into very big companies, which is true for a lot of enterprise companies that go through the program, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that's changed now that there's more competition? Do you feel like you're investing more in marketing, or some of the marketing tactics have changed?
So definitely the strategy around marketing has changed, right? Because we need to adapt to the new system where the new ways of playing this game, right? So like I remember our keyword deal, right? So previously 2 years ago it was the CPL is like $10, right? $5 to $10 today. Like the you can see like the CPL is around like $2,000. It's like crazy because competitors like keep on bidding on our keywords, right? So what do we do is that like we don't keep up the spending, okay, and then we find like organic ways to grow our pipeline, and then which from what we have seen is like the organic growth is the most efficient way, and then drives the more like sales qualified leads or sales qualified opportunities for our AEs, right? So to drive more organic growth, like we have developed all kinds of created assets, right? And then we like provide the salary information, salary insights based on different like jobs and then responsibilities or different levels of talents as well, right? And then previously just last month we released like global hiring report, right? That automatically drives several thousand leads already.
Do you work really closely with marketing on developing some of that collateral and some of that research, or what do you think the relationship is like with sales and marketing?
Yeah. I think today at Deel, sales and marketing as well as a product are working together. Okay, and then they're one system just to make sure that what the product is building, like is what the market is needed, right? So I think that part we have been focusing on and then making sure that that those three parts are aligned, like
Awesome.
yeah. And then for marketing and then sales, I wish like we have we can work more together, right? So and then I'm always finding all kinds of ways for those two teams to work together, yeah, to drive more efficient. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And are you at this point in time, I know you're live in many markets and you have teams all over the place. How do you think about translation? Is it something where you've fully translated Deal and you have sales and marketing in each market, or is it something that you work with maybe outsourced translators in certain markets where you are really thinking about growth in those particular places?
Yeah. So it's a hybrid model. It's a hybrid model. So for our tier one markets or tier one countries, right? So we have marketing managers, and then marketing managers would be in charge of all those translations, right? And then translate our websites to local languages, right? Which makes it more efficient. But for some of the regions, like key regions where we do not have a marketing manager, we work with local talents or local translators to translate the websites. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's been crazy to see the company's growth from a revenue standpoint, from an employee standpoint, but I always as an investor I enjoy it because I get to meet really interesting people all over the world. So I always love meeting folks that work at Deal.
Thank you, Bri. Like we are very lucky to work with you as well. Like and you are building a great community, and then like is super on top of the newest trend, and then always share with us like really really awesome data and the information. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Couple more questions, and these are more fun, just kind of getting to know you a little bit more. Is there one thing in the early days of Deel that you did that really set the company up for success?
Pivot early. Yeah, Alex and myself applied the Y Combinator. Right? So we're aiming to build a payment platform for international talents to be able to get paid based on their performance, or like based on automatically, right? So that to make sure that they always receive their payments, right? And then I think everyone really likes that idea, but everyone hates our initial product, right? So it's just super complicated to use, and we didn't acquire any clients within the first 3 weeks we were at YC, right? And then Alex and myself, we had a long conversation, and we decided, hey, probably we should give up on this product, and we should talk with our batchmates, and then great founders out there, and then to see what kind of product that we can build for them, right? And I think for the rest of the 3 to 4 weeks, we chatted with every single founder in our batch, and then trying to understand what their problems, and then how do they make payments to talents, and then based on their feedback, we build a completely new product. Yeah, I think that definitely helped us to understand the market, right? And then also still train our set the foundation, right? So trained myself and Alex about how to communicate with users always, right? And how to collect user feedback, client feedback, and then based on those feedback, how do we iterate our product, and then build new features.
I
Yeah.
will say from the very early days, I mean, you and Alex are not afraid to have hard, honest conversations. And I think that's a really good lesson to be learned for a lot of founders or people in business where, had you had waited longer or had you had really forced this product to market, you would likely be in a much different position than you're in today. Like the product would have gotten even more complicated. It would not have become simpler over time. And so it's been awesome to see just how quick both of you move and how direct and clear you are with each other. Do you have like the best practices, or are there certain operating principles that you have with Alex or with the rest of the team that allows you to move very quickly and very directly?
Alex and then myself, we have a very transparent communication style with our team. Okay, and then whenever we realize a client need, we would report it to our product team. We would report to our ops team directly, right? And then we trust our team, right? And then we would have them to test a small strategy. At the very beginning, and then we see how that works, right? So if we see some kind of traction, we would invest in the new product feature, right? So I think effective communication, transparent and honest conversations, and provide a really good and honest feedback to the product team can definitely make product development more efficient. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reflecting on a conversation you and I had with Eric Yuan, the CEO of Zoom. Listening to customers is something that I don't think a lot of founders take serious enough. I think it's pretty easy to get a lot of feedback or to get emails from maybe angry customers, and sometimes you start to disregard them when you're operating at scale. What I've noticed about both you and Eric is you are constantly obsessed over customers and how they're feeling and how they're thinking and what they wish they could see in the product. Do you have any principles or philosophies that you have internally on, how you take in customer feedback, how you prioritize it? Like, how do you stay so customer centric as you've scaled?
Yeah. So we receive client feedback from all channels, right? And then I understand that sometimes you receive a lot of emails where you receive a lot of information, and then as a founder, you have all kinds of responsibilities, and then you have a lot of meetings, right? But I think always be humble, and then always be patient about your clients, and then when it comes to their problems, right? So whether they come from support, they come from Twitter, they come from Facebook message or Instagram or direct emails, whatever, right? Always take the time, be patient, understand their problem, help them to solve the problem. I think that is very, very important, and then to build the trust between you, the company, the product with the clients. Yeah.
And then on your own, when you think about your own work life and how things have gone during the pandemic, I mean, you're living in Singapore right now. How do you balance work and life? Do you feel like you have certain things that you enjoy doing on your day off? Are there certain kind of best practices or even boundaries you have in place as a founder?
I think every founder could be different, and also it depends on the stage of the company as well as the stage where the founder is at, right? So as of today, I don't want vacation, right? So I'm very excited about where Deel is at today, and as I am traveling, I always see like new opportunities in new markets, right? And then based on those, I just get very excited, and I want to promote Deal. I want to build a local network. I want to expand the market, and then expand our like a go to market or sales team or marketing strategy, right? That makes me super excited. Every single day. So I think at least right now, don't I don't want a vacation. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe sometime next year I may need a vacation. Right now, I don't know. I'm just very excited, and I want to focus on work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and it's awesome to see just the team that you've built and the fact that you're in so many new markets. When I hear from GMs or leaders that are joining Deal in new cities, like you're really putting flags in the ground and creating new startup ecosystems, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure it's exciting, like as you're in Singapore, as you're visiting other places, like truly the Deal Alumni Network is going to be the future of people starting companies in other cities. And so there's also a lot of, not responsibility, but I think there's a lot of honor, and it's a really cool way to build the community because each person that joins Deal remotely will go on to do bigger and greater things too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And we have a huge community as well, from the clients part, and also the remote talents, the top talents internationally, globally, right? And then they themselves form a community around the Deal. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. As you've scaled internationally, have there been certain things that you look for that make someone a good employee at Deal, or how far into like company values and culture fit have you gotten?
um at the Deal we have 8 different principles, right? And then I think what we really value is integrity, and then also motivation, as well as whether the employee can execute, yeah,
Mhm.
at a certain speed, or and then be able to adapt into the environment or the mindset of problem solving. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and that's something that's really stood out. If you think about just companies in the broader category, Deal's done an amazing job executing, and each person on the team has a very similar philosophy when it comes to shipping. And so I do get the sense that Deal's been able to move much quickly and much faster than maybe other companies because not only are you passionate about remote work or passionate about things, but you also have really good executors and people that aren't afraid to move quickly and ship. Well, one final question, then we'll let you go because I know you're in Singapore. Is there anything that you wished you learned, either in starting the company or something that you've learned during the pandemic? Like what's been on, what's been in something that you've been thinking about and something that's been on your heart that you wish you would have known sooner?
There is a great question around the revenue ops, how do we hire rep ops, right? And then why that team is important, right? I wish I could have known that much earlier on, right? And then I wish I could have hired my first rep ops person, one where at 50 people sales team, instead of 150 much later on, right? And then that can make the sales team and also the data cleaner, and then also more structure, as well as set the good foundation for scaling the team. Yeah, so that is one thing that I wish I have known much early on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that's true for a lot of us. Well, I think there's a lot of functions that are fairly new, specifically
Mhm.
for startups.
Mhm.
Big companies have had revenue operations or marketing or sales ops for a while, but I think having that connective tissue or having that glue across the team can be really helpful.
Mhm.
The hard thing is hiring. I will say hiring people in operations or rev ops is really hard. How did you end up finding that person, and how has that changed your thinking even when it comes to recruiting? Because I think a lot of times it is a question of you wish you would have hired someone sooner, but also it takes a bit of time to find the right person.
Yeah. um yeah, that's definitely a huge problem. I think the head of rev ops today that we have, which is a key hire for us, like is from a referral, right? And then I think referral is always good when it comes to like hiring key roles, right?
Yeah.
And also I did a lot of research on my own as well, just to understand the responsibilities of rev ops, and then what would be a good rev ops leader, and then chatted with many other sales leaders as well to help me to understand and then become like more clear on what I should be looking for when make this key hire. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you're enjoying Singapore, and we'll see you when you get back.
Bye bye, have a good
See
one.
you soon.